what is it like, to live with cancer on a day-to-day basis? Some of the symptoms are like pain, loss of energy, fatigue, not being able to sleep. I cannot even imagine. It's like, it sounds like really a horrible way, to on a day-to-day basis. How do you just get yourself motivated, right? And that's what we're bringing today, a real cancer survivor story, right? He is not only a cancer survivor, a cancer warrior, but he's also helping others, to lead a better quality of life. We have Freddie Kimmel, who's going to join me in 1 second, who will talk about his story, his personal story, and what he's doing on a day-to-day basis to get his quality of life better as a cancer survivor. Okay, so that's the topic we are going to talk in just right now. And if you have any questions, any feedback, please feel free to jump in. And if you want to share your story in future, feel free to jump in as well. Let us know, and we'll bring your story out, because what we want to do is we want to motivate other people, right? Other cancer survivors, other cancer people who are living with cancer on a day-to-day basis. What can they do to improve the quality of their life? So we have Freddie Kimmel, who should be joining me in 1 second, and I'll get him in, and we'll be talking about what is it on a day-to-day basis. Your schedule, sort of like a routine. Is there a routine that he's following, and how does he help other cancer survivors, right? So hang on for 1 second, and hopefully I can get him in. So just wait for 1 second. All right, I am Fred second, and we will just start talking about how to not only survive but thrive, right? That's what the topic is. All right, hi Freddie, how are you?
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, and really appreciate and so thankful that you agreed to come here. We want to more kind of start with your personal story first as a cancer survivor, not even a cancer survivor. I should say that thriver, right? And you have now taken that energy and giving it back to the society as a holistic coach to help others to thrive. So it's incredible what the work that you're doing, very inspiring for a lot of people. So let's just learn about a little bit about you first.
Thank you so much, and it's so nice to meet you. Now, I have to ask, where are we connecting from? Right now, I'm in Reading, Connecticut, just a couple hours north of New York. Where are you located at?
I am near San Francisco.
Oh, beautiful. So we're spanning
Yes,
the perfect.
yes, yes.
I always think it's nice for people to frame in the scope of where we are geographically in this. I'm always amazed what we can do with technology and share stories like this. So if I just jump into it, I can make this, I can encapsulate what happened to me in my experience pretty quickly.
Mhm.
You know, when I was 26 years old, I was in New York City, and I was pursuing the life of a performer. I sang and danced. I did Broadway musicals. And around that time, I discovered this pain in my groin. And I really wasn't sure what was going on. And I found a doctor who kind of said, you know what, cancer doesn't hurt. Don't worry about it. So I let it go for 4 months. Well, you can imagine what happened 3.5 months later. I stumbled into the emergency room and could barely stand. And what I discovered was that the testicular cancer that I had an intuition about had actually spread to my lymph nodes in my abdomen. So the primary tumor was now 9 tumors that were in my lymphatics. They were in the lymph nodes, my peritoneum cavity, which is my, and they were wrapped around my left kidney, the vena cava going to my heart. It was a situation where it was too advanced to do any surgery. So I quickly moved into as much chemotherapy as I could handle. They said, we're going to give you as much as you can take. Cancer wasn't quite gone. Said, now we're going to do a surgery. We're going to cut from pelvis to your sternum. We're going to take out all your organs. We're going to put them all back in. We're going to take out the cancer.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. It's called a retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. So you never want this surgery. It's one of the most complicated surgeries, between 6 and 8 hours. I think I was in 8.5, 9 hours. My doctor never stopped. Usually they take a break. They have someone pick it. He just keeps going. Amazing, amazing doctor. Dr. Ganesh Palapatu, my savior. So, that experience, I eventually left the hospital a long time incapacitated, in and out of ICU, tubes down my throat, not eating or anything. And you would think that, I got to this place where I was declared cancer free. Incredible, incredible day. I'll never forget when my doctor walked in and said, whatever we pulled out of you was necrotic tissue. You're good to go. And I imagine in my head, this is going to be the point where I get on Oprah and I go right back to New York City and I go on a Broadway show.
Oh my God.
And that wasn't the story. What happened to me was I started to have the twisting of bowels. I started to have scar tissue growing around my intestines called adhesions, abdominal adhesions. And what I found is that every 3 months, every 2 months, I would be rushed to the emergency room because I'd have a complete obstruction of the bowel. This resulted in a couple times where I went in and they actually had to remove another foot of bowel over the next 5 to 6 years. And you can imagine the trauma and the reactivity that my body was in, sort of living in a state of fear, very, very low energy. Mm-hmm. My immune system crashed in this time, developed chronic fatigue. Mm-hmm. And I started to look at how reactive my body was becoming to the outside world. What I discovered along with the cancer was that I had Lyme disease and then I had very high levels of mold toxicity in my body. Mm-hmm. So I kind of found myself in the spot where it hurt to walk. I couldn't go to the bathroom, not without a coffee. I couldn't even go. And you know what that leads to. My fog was so terrible. I would pause before I tied my shoes. I had no word recall. I had like an hour and a half of awesomeness with a cup of coffee. Everything else was like, every step was fatigue to go up the stairs. And I remember being at this point, wandering around New York City. And I came across a statue. I came across this monastery and it was snowing out that day. And I found myself looking at a statue of the Virgin Mary. It's beautiful. Not an over religious person, but very spiritual. And I remember looking at this statue and saying, just getting right down to my knees and saying, oh my God, if I can ever get back to a place where I feel like a normal human being, I will show up as a lighthouse for other people. I promise, I promise, I promise. I'm giving it all to help. I don't care. My God, what a beautiful opportunity to even be allowed to be in service. That was that moment of clarity. Yeah. And that was really a huge turning point for me.
Yeah.
I started to incorporate an elite level of nutrition and food, really focusing on organic and from the earth and toxin free, not dogmatic about any diet. I started to look outside the box and fringe modalities to move my body forward. So when I say fringe, I mean things that you aren't going to pick up in an allopathic medicine office. Different types of herbal treatments, things like infrared sauna, full spectrum light therapy, and really the last 3 years have been energetics. So using things like magnetic field and frequency to help my body move back into a state of balance. And I can say within the last 3 years, I've leaped forward in healing. Wow. I had surgery since 2015. And I was always in the hospital, knock on wood, because things change.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
I understand that this state of vitality I've not reached the mountaintop. This is a peak and a valley and a trough. And there's going to be times when I experience robust health. There's going to be times when I'm sick again. And I totally accept and embrace that with the understanding that to be a human, to be on planet Earth is to be in life is pain. And it's how we navigate that with grace and virtue that I think makes the experience very beautiful. So I have these last 3 years have been amazing. I've got so much brain power now. I have the opposite of brain fog. Often when I'm speaking, I'm so channeled in. I'm like waiting with anticipation. I want other people. I'm like, come with me. Let's go. I've got so much ideas about how we can make the future a better place. It feels like it's bursting out of my head like a volcano. And I think like pulling a bow back on a bow and arrow, right? You pull that tension back. And I look at all the time I had surgery and I was sick. It's like pulling back this bow and arrow. And it was just building force. And it's like, boom, you let it go. And that's what I'm experiencing now is this skyrocket forward. Now, all that's amplified
Mm-hmm.
because I do these things that are outside of the box to mind my
Yeah.
energy. You know,
So,
I'm back to energy and thinking about that. And because it's been so beneficial, I'm always examining why. Why is that working? And from my understanding of why these things work in the body is because you and I and everybody watching this Instagram
mm-hmm.
are we're a collection of different frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we hear about frequency. Tesla said if you want to think in terms of healing, or the universe, think of energy, vibration, and frequency. Everything is a frequency. Everything is smaller atoms with dancing electrons around the outside. And the collection or the density defines why a fingernail feels different than a knuckle, feels different than a liver or an organ.
Mm-hmm.
So if I accept that idea, that platform of thinking, that all these systems in my body are a different frequency, why can't I give that organ or organ system a beneficial frequency to bring itself back into tune or to tone it? So it's saying, I look at me as like a collection of different frequencies, and the expression is my voice.
Yeah.
We have there's all these new scientific instruments where you can measure the health of the body through collecting a 55-second print of the voice and looking at tips and troughs of frequencies. And actually, you're going to be able to pick up information from that through new AI learning,
Mm-hmm.
where we can start to use my body's expression, Freddie's orchestra or Cindy's or Sarah's, and we can sort of almost do that as an energetic analysis. So to sum it all up, that I really believe in looking at the energetic body first, because downstream
Okay.
are the chemical reactions. Downstream of the energetic interactions between electrons and cell-to-cell communication. Cells communicate through light, which is
Mm-hmm.
really fascinating. Biophotons, the body emits light. And we
Mm-hmm.
can see this through auric signatures. We can use this through GDV photography,
Mm-hmm.
gas charge photography. And we can measure different resonance states of different areas of the body and organs and organ systems. So to see the validity of this energetic body and downstream being the chemical body, you start to see the rationale behind taking a supplement or a pill, which is a
Yeah.
chemical reaction. It's like you're working with the symptoms. We're not getting to the root. So things like meditation, breath work, prayer, clean water, yoga, energetics, to me, magnetic fields, grounding, standing in the dirt, those are the things that are the non-starter. If you don't want to incorporate those, it's like you're always going to be playing this game of chess without the possibility to win, in my understanding. That these natural practices that bring us back into alignment with nature,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the magic that I think a lot of people are missing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you. I talk so much.
No, no, no. I think this is beautiful. So I think what we want to understand is, what do you do? Like what's your routine like? I
Yeah.
mean, all the things that you're talking about, I think a lot of viewers will benefit to understand. You're talking about the energy. Are you using any energy tools, energy medicine? There's so many things out there, Reiki and so many things. So let's just walk through, what is it that you have done to yourself that you look so radiant?
Well, and it's fun to say that because I think that a lot of times I look in the mirror and I was like, wow, you look radiant for a kid who's been through 4 cycles of top to
Yeah.
side, 5 surgeries and Lyme.
Five, six. Oh my God.
I see it. I see that. Especially in the chronic illness community, which I really resonate so much with. I really resonate and I really empathize with somebody who's stuck in a spot where we can't get over.
Mm-hmm.
So my daily practices are really, first, I want to supply my body with the building blocks that it needs to recover and rebuild a better Freddie. So in 7 weeks, 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
the life that bone takes to regenerate. If I don't have the raw materials, think about this. Think about if we're building I like to think about human beings being on the planet for 100 years. I like to think that we all get 100 years, possibly, maybe more, who knows. But if I were to build that skyscraper, that 100-year skyscraper,
Yeah.
and I'm building this story of my life, if I don't have the raw materials, when I get up to floor 60, 70, 80, everything at the base is going to be wobbly. And
Mm-hmm.
think about the base is really the same things we'd use in a building. We
Yeah.
need carbon, we need minerals,
Yes.
we need hydrogen, we need oxygen. So I try to think about, what do I need for my body? And then I have a level of awareness of what happened in the last 100 years on our planet. We've overfarmed a lot of the soil, which is something
Mm-hmm.
to study. You know, a great scientist I like to follow is Dr. Zach Bush, who talks about over farming and regenerative farming. And, you know, another person is Wade Lightheart, who runs a company called Buy Optimizers. And what they've seen is over the last 50 years, one peach in 1950, I need 50 to get the same nutrient content today. So for me to get my nutrition and the building blocks from my 100-year building, it's really challenging to do that from food. It's really challenging. So I've seen that. I continue to read that data and be aware of that science. I think my big over one, if I had a t-shirt, awareness is my superpower, right? Keep looking, keep listening, keep your heart open, because you're going to have new levels of awareness. So these building blocks, right? How do I get it if it's not in the food? I've got to supplement some sort of a mineral,
Mm-hmm.
which water is very, very charged with minerals when it's in the right source area. So spring water, there's levels in the ocean that are 100 feet below the surface with a sea plasma that are very beneficial. So I think about how I optimize my hydration and water with minerals. That's a big one. Another one is carbon. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's different forms of, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but sometimes when people are rushed to an emergency room with a toxicity or poisoning, they'll
Mm-hmm.
put them full of charcoal. You know,
Yes.
a form of carbon because it absorbs toxins. So there's different, and what that would be called is a binder. And the way a binder works is it's almost like, have you ever seen someone drag a magnet across metal filings?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it like
Yeah.
it attracts some, but it pulls a bunch of other ones into the middle. That's a very much how a binder works in the body. So if I were to take charcoal, it might bind to some toxins, but it can pull other toxins from my bones, from my tissues. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this is from my understanding, it's quite a toxic little world. So we can actually over toxify the body by taking some of these carbon binders. So that's something that I practice every day. I microdose binding of toxins through these bioactive carbons. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the company I really love. I said one. These are all linked in my Instagram. I have a book, all these things that I take and all the tech that I use.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Beautifully Broken Buyer's Guide, and it's free, so people could download it.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
I think that Buy Optimizers and this other company, Cellcore, they make these great bioactive carbons and fulvic and humic acids, which are just, again, these building blocks for the body that it needs to
Mm-hmm.
detox. So that's kind of my like nutrition. The other
Sure.
thing that I think about is source. You know, I really think about what is the source of the fuel that I'm putting in my body. If I know that all food is somewhat problematic, unless I've grown it myself, which that's an awesome, awesome man. If you can work with the food that you're putting in your body, there's an energetic circle that you just complete there. And I know
Yeah.
it's realistic for everybody. It certainly wasn't for me when I was living in the city. But now I'm kind of off in this new area. The pandemic has sort of forced my hand to leave New York and
Mm-hmm.
living in the country for the lack of a better year and a half. So that's been a really unique experience of how nature really does complement the energetic field of the body.
Yes.
With that, you know, looking for organic nutrients, foods, things like you know, where are my vegetables coming from? Where are the soil? Who's made them? So locally sourced farms. And everybody can sign up for a CSA where we get vegetables within 20 to 25 miles. You know, the less a vegetable travels, the better it's going to be for you energetically. There's
Yeah.
many principles energetically to see why this would be beneficial. But there's something about sourcing from your energetic local municipality. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think about the minerals, the food, and the sourcing, right? So I always living into this. What are these building blocks? One thing I touched on was water. I don't drink tap water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you were in a city, you know, a really easy hack for this is to look up ewg.org, and you can
Yes.
search water, and you can put in your zip code, and you can see the environmental toxicity above and beyond what's acceptable to that governing body. Now, this is a little more stringent than what your local government would yield, but it's a good level of awareness. And what I've seen was from coaching people is that I would often find these toxins
Mm-hmm.
in excess of 10 times, 12 times, 50 times in people's tissue samples. Um, uranium, I discovered in one client, and that there was uranium in this local water table in Arizona 120 times beyond the normal limits. So this is a radioactive element that this human
Yes.
drinking. And you know the other crazy thing? They were drinking clean water, bottled water. However, they were showering. And I think we think about this. We're like, I'm drinking clean water, but what are you showering in? Because your skin, when it's heated up and that steamy shower absorbs a lot of chemicals. The skin is the body's largest organ. You know, when we can think about all the ways, there's all these ancient practices like lymphatic brushing, skin brushing we can do to help the skin complement that pathway of detoxification. So that's a big one for me, the water, the minerals, and the food. Now,
Okay.
stuff like the kid in the candy store for me are the energetic tools. And that's sort of where I get into this realm of we're in a world we've designed that I always think is so complementary to the human design. And I think about building materials we use. I think about the fact that we're always indoors. And the first thing that pops up for me with that is light. You know, the first hour, an hour and 15 minutes of the day, if you were to let your retinas hit that sun every day, you complement the circadian rhythm, the natural biological clock in your body. That's
Yeah.
one of the easiest ways to complement your hormones. Now, I've never been a morning person, ever. So that's something that I will often complement with a light source, whether it's a full spectrum light that I get in a like a seasonal affective disorder light that I'll put on my desk, or it's something like a red light that I love these there's a company I love, Light Path LED. I've done a podcast with this guy, Scott Kennedy, and he's an amazing scientist, a laser specialist, and he's built these red lights that will pulse different frequencies of red light. And what those red lights do is they penetrate different levels of the skin. They dramatically complement hair growth. So this is,
So I have to actually interrupt you right now.
please.
These are like 30-minute sessions, so we need to summarize.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because what we want to do is, we can have another topic on the lights and what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So what I want to do is I want to summarize right now that what are the 3-4 things that you do on a daily basis to make sure you're thriving, as a cancer survivor. And so we talked about the food, sourcing the food locally, right? All right. You talked about the light with the circadian rhythm, preferably a sunlight in the morning. What else? Like exercise, meditation. We talked a lot about that. Not too much.
The two big ones are really, I use pulse electromagnetic and field and frequency. So the earth generates a magnetic field. That because I wear rubber shoes all the time and I sit in a car with rubber and an insulated floor in a house with a basement, I don't get the natural magnetic field from the earth. The core lava, we have layers of metal. It's rotating to form a magnet with north and south poles on the planet. My body works the same way. So when I'm away from that, there's elements of my body that don't work as good. So I work with a system called AMP coil, which uses pulse electromagnetic field and frequency. So think magnetics and sound therapy. And what this allows my body to do is it allows my body's natural healing mechanisms just to kind of jump in line. And that is probably the biggest game changer in my health since I was sick. And it's something I use 3 to 4 times a week. So that's a big one. So we got the magnetics and frequency. We got the light. We got nutrition, minerals. The last thing that I'm going to say that's massive is mindset.
Yes.
And so what is your meditation to get back in and be able to listen to your body? Because in my opinion, when we listen to our body, this is the indicator, what I know what's right to bring in, what I know I need to change. And going outside of yourself for a guru or a light or a piece of technology, that's disempowering. I actually want to tap into my body and see what I can do. So anything I use or bring in to help my body's energetic field, it's to brush away noise. So I can get clear on what I know is my true north, where I know I need to move towards. And so whatever your meditation is, meditation for me can be walking slow, heel to toe, and just taking in the sounds. It can be yoga. It can be breath work. It can be sitting in a cold shower and allowing the sensation of how cold the cold is to just be with my body and to be in that state. I'm not trying to get out of the shower. I'm being with cold. So that brings me right into that present moment. So I don't necessarily look at meditation and sitting and breathing. I try to be so ultra present in the things that I'm doing that that becomes my waking meditation, my working or walking meditation. And
Okay.
that's really, that's, if I were to if I were to summarize it, that those are my magic ones.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much, Freddie, for being with us. To all the viewers who are watching and will watch later, this is a true story of a cancer survivor who has not even survived but thrived. And you can see his radiant face right here. Amazing, amazing story. Amazing. And thank you so much for being with us too, and share these true stories with other people who, it will help others, to thrive. With that, I'd like to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Freddie, and have a great day.
I love that. If I could say one more thing, if you just want to listen to more, because I'll talk and talk and talk. If you want to listen to more of this stream of consciousness, I do a podcast called the Beautifully Broken Podcast.
Okay.
Well, iTunes,
Absolutely.
where we talk about each little individual topic. So you can probably find one on everything I just said.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.